For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. The mystery of the Hill of the Dead in 1922, on one of the islands in the Indus River in India, archaeologists discovered beneath a layer of sand the ruins of an ancient city. They called the site Mohenjo-Daro, which in the local language means the Hill of the Dead. It is believed that the city arose around 600 BCE and existed for about 900 years. During its flourishing period, it was probably the center of the Indus Valley civilization and one of the most advanced cities in South Asia. Between 50,000 and 80,000 people lived there. Excavations in the area continued until 1980. Saline groundwater began flooding the site and corroding the mud brick and the preserved structures. At that point, by decision of UNESCO, the excavations were halted and the site was preserved. Only 1/10 of the city has been uncovered, a city from deep antiquity. What did Mohenjo-Daro look like nearly 4,000 years ago? The uniform houses were arranged in straight lines. In the center of each building there was a courtyard surrounded by 4 to 6 living rooms, a kitchen, and a washing area. The main streets were quite wide. Along the streets ran canals that supplied water to some houses. There were also wells. Every house was connected to a drainage system. Wastewater was carried away through underground pipes beyond the city limits. The first things archaeologists discovered were ancient public toilets. Among the other buildings, there were a granary, a pool for communal ritual bathing with an area of 83 square meters, and a citadel on the hill, evidently built to protect residents from flooding of the Indus. Inscriptions carved into stones were also found, which have not yet been deciphered. The catastrophe. What happened to this city and its inhabitants? It appears that Mohenjo-Daro ceased to exist suddenly. There is much evidence for this. In the houses were found the skeletons of 13 adults and 1 child. The people were not killed or robbed. Before their deaths, they were sitting and eating something from bowls. Others were simply walking down the streets. Their deaths had been instantaneous. Archaeologists rejected one theory after another about the destruction of the city and its residents. One of the versions claimed that the city had been suddenly attacked and burned by enemies, but no weapons or traces of fire were found during excavations. There were many skeletons, yet none bore signs of dying in battle. On the other hand, for such a large city, the number of skeletons was small. It gave the impression that most of the population had left Mohenjo-Daro before the catastrophe. I worked on the excavations at Mohenjo-Daro for 4 full years, recalls Chinese archaeologist Jeremy Sen. The main version I had heard before my arrival was that in 1528 BCE this city was destroyed by an explosion of monstrous power. All our findings confirmed this assumption. Everywhere, we came across groups of skeletons. At the moment of the city's death, people were clearly caught unprepared. Analysis of the remains revealed something astonishing. The deaths of thousands of Mohenjo-Daro's inhabitants were caused by a sharp rise in radiation levels. The walls of houses had been melted, and among the debris we discovered layers of green glass. The same kind of glass was seen after nuclear tests at the Nevada Desert Proving Grounds when the sand melted. The positioning of the bodies and the nature of the destruction in Mohenjo-Daro are reminiscent of the events of August 1945 in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Both I and many members of that expedition concluded there is a strong possibility that Mohenjo-Daro became the first city in the history of the Earth to be subjected to a nuclear bombardment. Such were the identical houses. This view is supported by English archaeologist Davenport and Italian researcher Vincetti. Their analysis of samples taken from the banks of the Indus showed that the melting of the soil and mud brick had occurred at temperatures of 1400–1500 degrees C. Such temperatures at that time could exist only in blacksmith forges, not across vast open areas. What the sacred books say, could a nuclear explosion have occurred 4,000 years ago? Let us turn to the ancient Indian epic Mahabharata. Here is what it says: "The earth trembled beneath their feet, and the trees quivered. The river roared, even the great seas stirred, the mountains cracked, and winds arose. Fire dimmed, the radiant sun was veiled. A white-hot smoke, 1,000 times brighter than the sun, rose in endless brilliance and burned the city to its foundations. The waters boiled, horses and war chariots were burned by the thousands. The corpses of the fallen were disfigured by the terrible heat, so they no longer looked like people. Gurkha, the deity, came in a swift and mighty Vimana, and sent against the three cities a single projectile, charged with all the power of the universe. A glowing column of smoke and flame blazed forth like 10,000 suns. It was impossible to recognize the dead, and the survivors lived but a short time. Their hair, teeth, and nails fell out. The sun seemed to tremble in the sky. The earth shook, scorched by the terrible heat of the weapon. Elephants burst into flames and, in their madness, fled in all directions. All the animals were set ablaze and trampled into the ground, and from all sides tongues of fire poured down like relentless rain. Once again we can marvel at the ancient Indian texts that for centuries preserved and conveyed to us these terrifying accounts. Most translators and historians of the late 19th and early 20th centuries regarded these texts as nothing more than grim fairy tales, for the era of nuclear missiles was still far away. From cities to deserts in Mohenjo-Daro, many different seals were found, usually depicting animals and birds: monkeys, parrots, tigers, rhinoceroses. Evidently, in that era the Indus Valley was covered with jungles. Now it is desert. Beneath sand dunes lie buried the great Sumer and Babylon. The ruins of ancient cities are hidden in the deserts of Egypt and Mongolia. Traces of cities are now being discovered even in the Americas, in regions completely unfit for life. According to ancient Chinese chronicles, highly developed states once existed in the Gobi Desert. Remains of ancient structures have been found even in the Sahara. This raises the question, why did once flourishing cities turn into lifeless deserts? Did the weather go wild, or did the climate change? And why did the sand melt? Researchers have found the same kind of sand turned into green, glass-like mass in the Chinese part of the Gobi Desert, near Lake Lop Nur, as well as in the Sahara and in New Mexico. The temperature required to turn sand into glass cannot arise naturally on Earth.